Today, let me just give you some introduction to the digital modulation. Basically, we've studied analog modulation in the last semester, and this is a system to develop techniques for shifting analog message signal from a low frequency range so that it can be conveniently transmitted over frequency regions, which resulted in AM, FM, and PM techniques. The pulse modulation represents the message signal at discrete instances of time. However, the resulting message is still in the low frequency range. So, pulse modulation is essentially used for digitization of analog messages like PCM, and the digitization message is nothing but a sequence of zeros and ones, and more commonly it is known as digital or a binary message. So, using a suitable pulse modulation technique, what we need to do is we have to convert our analog message into a digital form. So, the message may be directly generated, okay? So, the requirement is the digital communication field is to transfer the digital message from one place to another. There are broadly two approaches. One is baseband transmission, okay? That is nothing but the baseband is nothing but transmission of the digital message in the low frequency range itself. However, it is broadcast. However, say suppose you are using a music, if you are singing, it's directly being broadcast in the same frequency range. Then another thing is passband, which involves transmission of digital message into a higher frequency and then transmitted. So the set of modulation techniques for shifting the digital message from the baseband to the passband is termed as digital modulation techniques. So the digital modulation techniques are based on the conventional analog techniques only. Only thing is it has two messages, the two levels, that is 0 and 1, and the modulation process needs to store the information at high frequency range, which is done by AM, FM, and PM techniques, that is amplitude modulation, frequency modulation, and pulse modulation. So accordingly, this is overlaid on that. So combine it with AM, it becomes amplitude shift key. You are shifting the frequency. Then FSK, that means frequency shift key, thereby frequency is shifted. Then you have PSK, where phase pulse is shifted. So, depending on the nature of the demodulation, now we have produced it. Now there should be a way of getting back the signal. So that depending on the nature of the modulation scheme, the digital modulation techniques are classified as coherent and non-coherent. In coherent, detection carrier is in the receiver, which is in synchronous with the transmitter, and no such constraint is there in the non-coherent detection. There are a number of digital modulation techniques. The choice of a particular technique is based on the two important sources of communication, that is, very importantly, the transmitted power and the channel bandwidth. So the ideal requirement is one which uses minimum transmitted power and channel bandwidth. So this will be a conflicting requirement. To conserve bandwidth, we need to spend more power. To conserve the channel bandwidth, you have to consume more power. And hence, there is a balance that is needed, a trade-off between the power consumption and bandwidth. So this is the basis for us to study the digital modulation techniques. So now, in my next video, we will be talking about the different techniques. Okay? Yeah. Thank you.